Welcome to the VŌC Podcast.
Well, hello guys. How are y'all doing? This is Ronald, and today I'll be chatting with the professional actor and voice actor Christopher Emerson, who's perhaps best known for voicing Piers Nivans in Resident Evil 6. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm glad that we could finally make this happen. I think you originally asked me to do this, a year ago? And then life happened and all kinds of stuff
Really?
happened. It's been a
Can't be
while
that
since
long ago.
it was a while ago. And then I had to kick the can down the road a couple times. I think there was the birth of my second kid in there somewhere, and then holidays and all kinds of stuff happened. So
I don't think it's been that long, but yeah, it's been a few months. But so yeah, you're a busy man, right? With acting mostly. So when did you get into acting?
when I get into acting, wow, I think I did my first play when I was like 7. I was like 7 years old, getting on
Oh
stage for
wow.
the first time. And yeah, it was like Cinderella. I just remembered that. It was the play was Cinderella.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that was the very first time. And then but voiceover stuff came way later. That was stage play stuff, and TV and film stuff came after, and then voiceover a little further down the road. It's been an evolution.
So do you do theater, I believe?
Yeah, I started in theater.
Mm,
I did lots of stage stuff growing up. A mixture of just kind of fun kid stuff, but also the university where I grew up.
mm.
They did a lot of really, really good plays by some of the great Oscar Wilde and Charles Dickens and oh God, what's his name? Tennessee Williams, and of course
Mm.
Shakespeare stuff and all that. And so
Yeah.
they did amazing plays. And as a kid growing up, I did a lot of plays at the university there because they had open auditions. And so I spent a lot
Okay.
of time on the stage between 7 and 17. So like 10 years of being on the stage. But
Um,
it was like the beginning of my acting stuff.
so it sounds like you've always been into acting.
Yeah. Yeah. Long
So
time.
I don't believe there was like a plan B when it came to career opportunity.
No, yeah, I can't say there's a plan B. There's been evolutions and modifications on plan A.
Okay.
Plan A has been more than enough to go from theater stuff to commercial stuff, and like I said, TV, film, and then evolution, or I mean, voiceover really came out of like an evolution of the TV and film stuff. I didn't even know it could be a career, and I mean, it's mostly what I do now, but it didn't start that way. And so yeah, it's kind of a plan A has had various chapters, various seasons to get to this point.
Do you think like a theatrical background is important to voice actors?
I think it helps. I think when it comes to voice acting, when it comes to video games and animation, I don't feel there's a huge separation between acting, theater, classically trained stuff, or
Mm.
what is TV and film on camera acting. I don't think there's a huge difference, especially now with motion capture stuff, where before a voice actor, say like you go back to original animation days where you didn't see the actor at all, it was all voice. Right now it's facial motion capture, it's the full rig setup where you're right there with another actor. It feels more and more like on camera acting every day. And so or being on the stage for that matter, especially in a motion capture stage, like a motion capture volume, it feels sometimes like doing a play, you know.
Yeah.
And so very much so. I mean, having training, having experience, being on a stage or being in front of the camera, acting is going to help you in voice acting, animation, video game stuff.
Yeah, it'll definitely help. Yeah, I do agree with you. Did you do motion capture for RE6?
Yeah, it was all facial. It was like from sort of the shoulders up was all me, right? So the body was done by Kevin Dorman. Did all the big body movement stuff of
Mm.
the fighting stuff, and coming around the corners and all that. That was done, and Ruben Langdon did the Chris Redfield stuff. So Kevin Dorman and Ruben Langdon were on a motion capture volume in like the big space, doing all the big big body movement stuff. And then I came later, and so everything from kind of the shoulders, like where I would stay in this sort of confined space, and be able to kind of move like this to match the body movements of Kevin
Yeah.
Norman. But then all face stuff, so all the voice and face stuff being captured at the same time, and then put onto the character later.
Man, that's amazing. Did you meet Roger? Roger Craig Smith, Chris.
Roger Craig Smith? Yeah, a few times.
Man, he must be great.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. Roger Craig Smith is funny because he's one of those guys where if when you first meet, he's got a very like intense demeanor about him, so you can't tell if he's going to be only serious, but then he's total goofball. Yeah. Like he's very serious and like super silly at the same time. And I appreciate that about Roger.
Yeah, I mean he's great. Hope to have him on one day. That'd be great.
Yeah,
but he's a busy man. Yeah. He's a busy man.
Oh, big time. Yeah. He's got all the Sonic the Hedgehog stuff going on, and so much stuff.
It's so hard to imagine that, he don't do Chris Redfield no more, for now at least, Village, Resident Evil Village, and
sure.
Yeah, he hasn't been Chris over there.
Yeah.
People been disappointed. But actually, so how did the audition process of Resident Evil 6, go like?
It started as a secret project. I didn't even know I was auditioning for Resident Evil 6 when
that mostly is like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. It was just another video game project that was unnamed. I think it went under the name of Roku, which is 6 in Japanese. I found that out later. But I think the name of the project was Roku. It was a confidential video game project, and you had to sign like a non-disclosure agreement to see the script and send a sample. And it wasn't obvious. I had no idea that it was Resident Evil 6 until I stepped into the callback, which was actually the callbacks were on location in a studio. The original auditions were just voice samples, and so send the sample, fine. And then the callback was actually with Liam O'Brien, the voice director, in a studio space, and he was looking for motion capture quality and acting quality in addition to the voice stuff, because it was all going to be mocapped.
Yes.
And I think it was only at that time, showing up at the callback and getting the explanation from Liam, the first time I met Liam in person, that I realized that I got to know that it was Resident Evil 6. Up until that point, it was, Project Roku.
Yeah. There's a question from Wesker Tyrant. Were you a fan of Resident Evil before getting the part?
I'd played Resident Evil 5 in its entirety, and way back, I think 1 or 2, maybe like on, what was it? First one was on Dreamcast. Was it the
I believe Resident Evil 4 was on Dreamcast. Definitely not 5.
Yeah, whatever. No, definitely not 5. I mean, going way back to one of the original.
Okay. My bad.
On like the old Dreamcast terminal, or console.
Yeah.
I played some of that, but yeah, I mean, not hugely. So I mean, obviously aware of it and know about it, but
yeah.
But I didn't know the details of the stories and characters and like really the lore and the mythology of the whole epic story of Evil until I was involved with it.
Yeah, definitely. There's a question from Ruby Red Scale. What was it like when you found out it was Resident Evil 6 that you're, cast in?
I mean, it was really cool. Like, I remember having that conversation with Liam, and he's explaining it to me and saying what it is, and I'm going like, okay, and then finding out what my character is, which is really cool, and knowing where that fits in the bigger picture, and with Chris Redfield's relationship and who Piers is going to be.
Yeah.
And then I would say where it really, really got next level was once cast, like once I was going to be playing Piers, the very first big meeting was a sit down with everybody. I think Matt Mercer was there and Courtney Taylor was there, and was Roger there? I don't think Roger was there, but Liam was there. A handful was, right, like all the kind of major players,
like a table read,
like kind of like a table read, but it was more like imagine a table read, but none of the actors are going to read, just Liam is going to talk, right? And Liam
Okay.
O'Brien walked us through every detail of the Resident Evil universe, because the nature of Resident Evil 6, as fans know, was to take these kind of epic storylines, right? These three major storylines with past characters and present characters, and kind of weave them into this like ultimate narrative, instead of it just kind of being, you know, one storyline. And so I guess it was either Liam or Capcom thought it super important for everybody to understand the gravity of the storylines, to understand every detail and every nuance of what we're feeding into and what we're creating with 6. I don't know if they did it with past games to do this. I just know from my experience on 6 that they wanted the actors to really, really, really understand this world in creating their characters and telling their storylines, to really understand everything that came before it, and not just be reading the lines on the page, which, you know, we're all good at. We're voice actors, and
Yeah.
I mean that's what we do. We should make it sound good regardless. But Capcom really wanted to achieve something with 6, and it's up to the fans to decide whether or not they achieved it. But I do know their intention was to make every beat, every detail of 6 be true, right? Be
Yeah.
ring true for fans, and to really create something that they were going for to be. And again, you know, whether or not they achieved it is a subjective, you know, opinion. I know, you know, mixed reviews. Everybody has their own thing. I know that Capcom. I mean, look at, you know, like I said, regardless of whether or not they achieve it, I do know that Capcom set out to create an opus. You know, they set out to create
Yeah.
an orchestral opus of storylines,
Yes.
creating something much more. They attempted. They at least made the attempt to make something
Yeah.
much more complex, with interweaving storylines and these narratives, these chapters that meet up at certain
Exactly.
points, and ultimately culminate to this big finale. And you know, I think it was a hell of a project, a hell of an undertaking on every level, individual voice acting to the writing to the production, to create this thing that they wanted to be, um, you know, seamless and flow and weave through. So I can't remember the original question, but I hope I answered it.
You
I
know,
got lost on a tangent there.
believe it or not, I can't remember it either. But you told me a lot, and I'm thankful for that. You know, I played Resident Evil 6 for quite a few times, quite a couple 100 hours. And you know, they tried hard enough, but the game ended up being more kind of actiony, rather than the horror genre that most of the players loved. And I liked it, but you know, then there were a lot of people who did not. So, what do you think of, you know, people hating on the game?
It's, I mean, that's it's you know, there's nothing, there's no such thing as anything that pleases everybody. And if you don't, I feel like there's a knee-jerk reaction to when people don't like things, to somehow find out if they're wrong. I guess you could say, like, are you wrong for not liking something? Or even for if you're right, or even if you're like something, say like, well, you know, maybe you're wrong for liking it, and it's actually worse than you think.
Hmm.
And I don't know. It's for everybody to decide, you know, like, you know, it's a mixture of expectations going in to playing something. It's whether or not they actually achieved the thing that they set out to do. You know, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. You know, like, how do art, story, it's tricky. You know, it
It is.
especially
Yeah.
on the level where there are hundreds, thousands of people contributing to the final product. And so, who do you say is the artist? Capcom, the individuals that wrote the storylines, the the um, the producers specifically of Resident Evil 6, Liam O'Brien as the voice director, the individual actors as the character creators. I have no idea. You know, I just know that you have tons of people creating a final product that when it works, I think it's more of a rarity when something works, because you have so many artists contributing. Like when you actually have a
Yeah.
movie a movie or a video game that fires on all cylinders and is, makes it to the finish line. I think that's why you have award shows, to award those people for making it to the finish line with a coherent product that people liked. Because it's so hard. It's so hard to do,
Yeah.
and if it's not your cup of tea, if you don't like it, cool, that's absolutely, you're right. You're the person that played it, and you
Yeah.
played it and go, yeah, this sucks. And I give that opinion just as much credit as somebody that plays it and goes, this is the best game ever.
Did you play it?
Yeah, I played it. I played all the way through. I played all the storylines.
Really?
Mostly because I wanted to hear what the other, like, because I knew what Roger was doing, right? I knew what Roger was doing. I knew what Troy was doing a little bit, especially in the last half of our storyline. I got to see a lot of Troy's stuff as Jake. But our storyline met up with what's his name? Matt Mercer's character. I'm spacing it.
Leon. Yeah.
Leon, thank you. Our characters meet up with Leon for that brief moment regarding Ada Wong's, treason or
Correct.
deceit. So I knew very little of Leon's storyline at all through production. I knew quite a bit more about Troy's because of how the ending plays out, and how much their storyline plays into the Chris Piers storyline. But yeah, I just wanted to play it more out of curiosity because we worked on it for like a year and a half, and you just want to hear some of the acting and see what the other person was doing, and all that. So and also to see if it's what you did was fun. If it's a good product.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I already played it like a lot of time, and it was a lot of fun for me personally. How did you prepare yourself, to get into the character of Pierce?
I had a lot of material from Liam, like I said, that he supplied us with a lot of great stuff, and so that was amazing. He put, it was like a Bible, like a Resident Evil Bible of info, so that helped. And then in addition to that, I wanted to make Piers be authentic, because Piers's job is to keep Chris as the captain honorable, like even bring him back from dishonor in a way.
Yeah.
Right? And so Chris starts in this kind of dishonored rut as our hero, which I think is a great, just from a storytelling standpoint, like I think it's a great attempt to go. There's a great story arc for Chris to go to where he starts in that bar in Resident Evil 6, just kind of sad and mean and dishonored and all that, and he has to, and by the end of it, he needs to be the one that saves the world. And so Chris has this wonderful storyline, has this wonderful character arc that's just epic. And so I approach Piers as needing to be the support for that. Chris needs to earn that story arc. Piers needs to be present in order to make that story arc possible at certain points in the game, right? For it to continue. And I've always likened Chris and Piers's relationship as being like that of Frodo and Sam from the Lord of the Rings. There are many times where Chris / Frodo could give up, right? Absolutely, they could give up because screw all this. I don't know what words I can use on your podcast, but screw all this. Give into the dark side. The world's corrupt and messed up anyway, and this is too damn hard. Like Frodo and Chris as heroes face that dilemma, and Sam Gamgee / Piers Nivans, their job is to be that guide, that conscience, that Jiminy Cricket in their ear for a second, that just barely keeps them holding on, like presents them with that little bit of inspiration, that authenticity of a brotherhood, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so to answer your question, what is that when it comes to Soldiers in Arms? What does that come to? What is that authenticity when when soldiers are fighting in the trenches, facing life and death, and it's the epic struggle of good versus evil, and how do you make that ring true? And there's lots of material out there. There's lots of both fiction and nonfiction in terms of war and stories and brotherhood and humanity. And so I dug into a lot of that stuff, a lot of reporting. I remember at the time that was going on, having to do with war and troop formation, stuff like that in the Middle East, I think is what I was looking at. And then also older stuff too, where you get kind of the more romanticized, because we are telling a story after all.
Yeah.
And when you have an artist's pen, some literary genius writing about, say, the struggles of war during the Civil War or Revolutionary War, or even Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings itself, and stuff like that, to enrich the story, or to enrich the characters, their relationship with that level of authenticity, I felt was important. And that came not just as an individual deciding that, but very much from Liam's inspiration and Roger's inspiration in terms of what we were creating, to make it not just be, you go down, get down,
Exactly.
And just but to have it be something where ideally what we execute in the end is something that is believable, right? That would be authentic to anybody that has even been in the situation, whether it be war or some sort of epic struggle, and of any kind of relationship, because that's what they have ultimately, regardless of anything else, really. It comes down to a relationship between Chris and Piers, and what that relationship means to them individually, and also what it means to the future, what it means to what happens next, what it means to Chris's motivation to live or not, Piers's motivation to keep the mission intact, so all that.
Yeah, and I was also very sad at the ending of your campaign with Chris. So how much were you told at the beginning of Pierce's fate?
That's a good question. Did I know going in? When did I find out? I don't think it was at the very beginning. I don't think I knew from like those very first meetings with Chris. Maybe at the table read at the big like encyclopedia session of Resident Evil. Maybe by then I knew about the ultimate fate of things and how this whole thing would carry out. I know by the time we recorded, by the time we did the first session, because there's a lot of time, like I said, it was over the course of a year and a half. And so I think the very first session that I had, where I'm actually behind a mic and starting to record some of this stuff, was probably weeks. I would say within a month or two of that sitting down at that table. And so I would say around then is when I knew what we were laying down, what we were recording, ultimately needs to earn this ending.
Yeah.
Every relationship beat, every moment, every motivation, needs that payoff. It really needs that ultimate sacrifice payoff on both their sides, on both Chris and Piers' side.
Yeah, that was a very emotional ending. A question from Miss Blue Plays. How much of your own personality comes across in Piers?
Probably quite a bit, probably.
It's your voice, right?
Yeah, it's my voice, and I wouldn't say I'm entirely divorced to the character. There's definitely some characters you play where you're going like, yeah, I would never do that. Like if you're playing something like I don't know, just like bad guys that are super vicious, and like if I was playing, if I was playing, I was gonna say Albert Wesker, but there's definitely a smart ass side of me that relates to Albert Wesker. I'm trying to think of like some villain that's just so unexcusable, just so absolutely unrelatable that they're just vicious. But sometimes when you never want to judge your characters when you're playing them, that doesn't make any sense. You want to relate to them. Even if you're playing Hitler, you got to find why and how this person could possibly do the things they do. And so there's always a part of you in the character at the time, even if when you get done with it, I've definitely gotten done with some characters where you go, wow, you kind of have to, you shut it off and you go, yeah, whew,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's not me, that's not me, but you're bringing life to that character. With Piers, I would say quite a bit. I mean, I'm definitely not, I don't have the discipline that he does. I could say that, that's where we differ. I'm definitely a bit more, what's the word? Lackadaisical. A bit more silly, and all over the place. I don't think Piers would have hair like this, but I to a certain degree, though, in terms of his hopefulness, I guess you could say. I really like, that's something I related to the most. That definitely is there for me, which is always never collapsing, never giving up, never giving in to the opposing forces that get in our way. That stuff. I like that. I like that. That's part of me for sure. I don't like no. I don't like no for an answer on anything. I like that. Just like you tell me, go. I want to accomplish that, and someone says no, and I'm like, gloves are off. It's on.
Yeah, he has a great positive attitude.
Yeah, I would say those aspects of Piers are definitely the most relatable for myself, and like what I would say are aspects of me that's not a stretch. Bit more the kind of the militaristic. It's a sense of duty and the discipline stuff. Not to mention his voice. I feel like I had to push my voice down like really, to gravelly soldier stuff. That's a bit more removed from me. But yeah, I would say the biggest aspects of me that are present in Piers have to do with that tomorrow's going to be brighter because we're going to make it so. Tomorrow's going to be better than the day before because we're going to complete the mission, or we're not going to take no for an answer.
Yeah, and that's so positive. Like you're an optimist.
Yeah.
So there's a question from TNT Sherry. Would you be willing to come back as Piers?
Yeah. If for no other reason, honestly, I mean, it was a lot of fun, but if for no other reason, I would just imagine that storyline to be epic, right? Like because the way it ended, because of how things ended up playing out, and you reach this finish to Resident Evil 6, that like if Piers did come back, even if it was like in a prequel and you're going to show, I don't know, them at the academy or something, or when Chris first recruits Piers or something. Ideally, I would love it for it to be something that takes place after Resident Evil 6, because just imagine that, whatever that is. Just for the sheer storyline value, I would love to see what that story is, and bring Piers back to be able to do that, to do, whether he comes back. I would imagine it would be amazing for Piers to come back as bad, though, you know what I mean, like kind of like this, because he's infected and deformed, and
yeah,
everything. I would love it for it to be a kind of I feel like there's a story right on the tip of my brain that is this, where it's like, I mean, it's kind of Darth Vader, right? Like I'm thinking of characters that have turned, they've turned bad, but there's still just a tiny shred of them. They are the bad guy. Like imagine like if whatever the entity that is Piers, comes back as more bad than good, but there's still a sliver of Piers that is somehow reachable, and maybe that's where the story goes, and that little bit of sliver overcomes the Emperor.
Man, that'd be great.
And throws him down a vent, to continue the Star Wars metaphor. But yeah, whatever that storyline is, for that alone, I'd love to bring Piers back.
Well, since the release of RE6, I mean, Capcom's been working on some Resident Evil movies, animated movies. So they had the opportunity to bring Piers back, even for a prequel. But, they were more interested in Chris and Leon and Ada,
Yeah, so we'll see.
We'll hope. We keep hoping. All right. Keep up the attitude, the positivity.
And there might be something in the works. I've kind of found this appeal in the how should I say? I'm not sure what I can say about the project yet, but say in the NFT world, there might be some kind of fan fiction meets Piers Nivans, Piers Nivans inspired. Let's say Piers Nivans inspired fan fiction stuff in the NFT space to maybe kind of create something fun. I've just kind of been exploring this new technology.
I wanted to
And
talk about that, but you were faster.
Gotcha. Hey, if you got questions, I got answers.
Really? You just said you don't have, you can't say too much about it, or
I
can
have some answers.
you? Have some
I should.
answers.
Yeah, no, it's so. So what I find interesting, like I think to preface this for anybody that is taking this in right now, when you hear NFT, there's a lot of different connotations at the moment, right? And I do think that it's the birth of a kind of technology that is going to give way to a lot of amazing things ultimately that are just not even really thought about yet or seen yet, especially as a storytelling platform. Right now, what we see are, kind of basically JPEG images as collectibles and stuff, and that kind of turns
Mhm.
some people on, turns some people off.
Yeah.
But as a technology, though, I think what's being missed as a technology is it's a wonderfully personal storytelling platform for fans or collectors or just users to be able to have ownership in a space where, when you think about it, when you really kind of start to break the ice on the thinking of what we've experienced with gaming or with the internet, it's mostly renting, right? Unless you buy something on Amazon and it shows up at your door, you don't own most of what you interact with online, whether it's your Facebook profile or Twitter feed, or skins in a video game, or objects that you're kind of renting those a lot of time. It's Ubisoft's economy, it's Activision's economy. You're a player in it, and if Activision decides to, if Capcom decides to kind of turn off the switch, or Blizzard decides to do an update of some kind or whatever, it's not really yours. You don't really own it, even if you actually transacted hard cash for a certain thing. And I think as gamers and users and story listeners, story listeners, realize that they can actually own these things, like personally, that you actually can truly own this digital piece, and that it could have been in the hands of other people or from the creator to you. So I think that's the promise of NFTs gives true ownership of things that transcend just the current JPEG economy. And I'm excited. The more I learn about the NFT space, the more excited I am. And that transcends any sort of, like I said, JPEG collectibles, or say, I don't know. I honestly don't know all the things that turn off people off about NFTs. I just know that there is right now, for whatever reason, there's kind of a backlash to just even mentioning NFTs. I know Troy Baker experienced it recently. He was getting interested in it, and then he had to kind of backpedal his involvement on an NFT project. And I think that's unfortunate. I think that shouldn't be. I don't think he should have had to have done that. And I don't think that the voices that are being a bit loud, that make him feel like he needs to backpedal, are entirely, not that they're not informed, but maybe lacking a little bit of vision, a little bit of insight, a little bit of
Yeah.
of I don't know, of knowledge that inspire. Because like I said, the more I learn about the NFT space, the more inspired I am, from a storytelling aspect, from skipping the middleman, skipping this sort of like rental economy, and getting direct to the users, and giving them true ownership of a piece. If they want to exchange it with somebody, if they want to put it on the marketplace, if they want it personalized and entirely their own forever, something they pass along to someone else. I don't know. I find it to be an amazing space. And so, yeah, I want to create something, and I'm starting to create something. I just need to sit. I just need the time. I need the Piers Nivans discipline to sit down and finish the damn project. But it's almost there. I started to tease it on Twitter a little bit, and I want to release these
Yeah.
kind of video puzzle pieces that are going to lead to a fun little mini adventure for kind of a tribute, a little bit of a tribute, a little bit of a nod to everybody in the Piers fandom universe, something that they'll like, and something that they'll be able to have true ownership of, and yeah, have a good time with it.
Well, I got a few questions related to this NFT. I don't know much about the NFT world. So I don't know how exactly to imagine this project of yours. Will this be like an animated something or like a live action something, or what exactly are we supposed to imagine or to
So
expect?
yeah, so I would say the because of so in it so if you understand what an NFT is, and just imagine it's something like, imagine having um, uh, a tangible collectible in your wallet, right? And so there'll be multiple pieces, and those individual, I think 9, if I remember right. It's been a little while, that kind of, like I said, been distracted, but I think there are 8 or 9 individual pieces. They will be in video form. I'm going to create them, and uh, it's a mixture of voice and visual stuff. And I want to do something different with each piece. They will act as sort of mini games individually. So once minted and once out there, you'll be able to look at each individual piece as both a mini game, a contained mini game unto itself, a kind of puzzle to solve, or a riddle to work out, or a scavenger hunt to solve. And those mini games will play into a larger narrative. Each individual piece will act as a kind of key for a lock with 9 keyholes, let's say, right? And that ultimate lock will give way to a grand finale, a kind of, say, surprise bonus tribute chapter to the Resident Evil Piers Nivans universe. Tribute. Say the word tribute.
Okay.
Mostly out of not wanting anybody that has a team of lawyers to be mad at me. But as far as I know, anybody can write fan fiction without it being too big of a problem. And as long as it's kind of a tribute and not so much for, say, a big commercial game, but for the sake of creating just kind of a fun art piece, more of an artistic expression, a tribute piece, to be able to create this kind of fun mini adventure of, like I said, the individual puzzles, and all those individual puzzles collectively being keys that unlock an ultimate door that leads you to this kind of, fun ending that I gotta finish. That's the journey. That's the game. That's the kind of adventure on the NFT storytelling platform I'm experimenting with.
So will this be like something like that you could play online, or like an actual piece?
Yeah, so the whole thing will play out online. The Trying to think how you describe it. So like, kind of like, do you know those puzzles that are kind of like the wooden puzzles to get the ring off, or like the ring or the chain,
Yes.
kind of, it's like that. It's like a digital
Ah.
version. It's like a digital version of those types of puzzles, where you got to kind of, get to the ball on the inside of the wood thing, or got to get the ring
Mm.
off of
Okay.
these sort of like mini puzzles, right? And so that's what I mean by individual mini puzzles.
Okay.
But and where you'll ultimately, so that alone, you'll be able to solve these kind of little individual puzzles if you want, right? And that's kind of
Mm.
the, I feel, the joy of the NFT world is you can really create multiple. It's kind of choose your own adventure. You could have one, and they'll be collectibles because they'll be limited in amount, right? In terms of authenticity of what I will actually mint, there will be, as kind of, just kind of creating this sort of artistic experiment, there'll be a limited number of those. So as an individual puzzle that you like, or as an individual piece to this bigger puzzle, that will be limited in its authentic minting, right? In terms of its limited in number. It ideally acts as a kind of collectible that you can hold on to, that I minted as the artist behind it, and you can hold on to it. you could collect more than the one and solve more than one, because you ultimately have to solve all these puzzles that range in difficulty. That if you want to embark on the full storyline, unlock each one that will present and it'll be obvious, it'll be obvious as it goes, where the door is located. It is a secret door, but for those that solve the clues and follow the clues and solve the puzzles, you will find the door. And when you reach that door will present itself with questions. And if you solved the mini puzzles, you will know the answers to those questions. And the 8 or 9 keyholes, not actual keyholes, but the 8 or 9 places where the 8 or 9 locations where those keys need to fit will make sense, and the door will open, and you'll be presented with kind of my silly, but it's silly, artistic creation of just kind of this idea, this kind of brain thing that like an earworm, thing I couldn't shake, that I wanted, that I wanted to kind of create in digital form. And I thought it'd be fun to create it in the NFT platform to be able to tell the story and these puzzles, and gives people something to do and me something to do to create it and do that.
Man, I can assure you, both me and the RE fans are looking very forward to hearing about this. Is there like a estimated release date that you can talk about? When would you want this to be out by? What year?
I would say, so there's kind of 2 main things that need to happen. So the final chapter of it, the keys have been forged. The door is the door has been made. What's on the other side of that door, the ultimate finale piece, that needs to be recorded and rendered and created, and that's that'll be very limited in its creation. The individual keys will be able to be collected and stuff like that, but I want it to be limited. I want people to feel like they solved something and accomplished something. Very Ready Player One. That's something I should have mentioned earlier, as a reference. It's very much a kind of scavenger hunt Ready Player One thing, and I don't want that to just be out there, just millions and millions and millions of copies. That final piece needs to be created. So to answer your question, how long? I would really, really like that final piece to be done within the month. And I would really love for the minting process to be seamless, easy, accessible, because I don't want the crypto world NFT tech side to get in the way of the storytelling. I want it to just be seamless and easy. If you want to embark on this journey, go, right? To create that, because the technology is new, that's a little more tricky. That's outside of my wheelhouse. So I got to find a collaborator in the kind of Web3 Solidity programming minting space of NFT stuff to help me create that kind of like that last piece of flow for everybody. So long story made absurdly longer. I'm hoping within the next couple months. I would really like it to be the next couple months.
Man, that's sooner than I expected.
It's been a long journey. I think I originally had the idea like a year ago at this point, but yeah, it's getting there. It's getting there.
I'm looking forward to it. And we can move on to the next question from Mr. White Red Dragons. Are you a licensed helicopter pilot?
I am.
What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I'm a licensed helicopter pilot. Somebody's doing their research. God, that goes back to 15 years ago. I wanted to fly, and I took a introductory lesson in a very small airplane, and I just didn't care for it. But I really wanted to fly still, even though there was something very off-putting about the small plane aspect of it, but I still wanted to fly, and I'm like, well, what else can I try and fly? And I took an introductory lesson in a helicopter, and I loved it. I crazy loved it. Like, it was a whole different experience. The mobility and the way you fly it, and how just every aspect, every, both arms, both legs, and your focus, it's radically different than flying an airplane. And it just spoke to me. It was like I was instantly hooked, and I was like, oh, I want to do this. And I actually haven't flown for a long time now. I've just been moving around a bunch and just kind of doing other things. But yeah, I flew a bunch from like about 15 years ago until about almost 5 years ago. I think it's been about 5 years since I flew. And but yeah, it's great. It's a good time. It was really just out of like if you told me because I got into paragliding for a while and stuff like that. I don't know, something about flying, something about getting off the ground and actively piloting something, whether it's a hang glider or paraglider or a helicopter or an airplane. It's fun. It's really fun. And
Man, it really
yeah.
sounds like a part of Pierce is living in you.
That aspect, yeah. I bet Piers would be a badass Apache helicopter pilot, I would imagine.
Well, we have another question here from White Red Dragons. So, in an interview in 2018, you said that the first lines you recorded for RE6 were grunts and yells. Was it weird to scream at a microphone?
It's definitely when you're doing, they're called efforts, right? So when you're doing the grunting, like the picking up something heavy and going, or throwing a punch, and doing all these things, it's definitely bizarre. It's a RE6 wasn't the first video game that I did. I think the very first video game that I did was a boxing video game, which you can imagine the efforts of various levels of punching or taking punches or getting hit. The head sounds different than the stomach, and so yeah, you just you do an entire day or multiple days of all these different types of grunts and sound effects and various levels of pain and agony or triumph, and it's a trip. It's a trip. And you end the day with like the most hoarse, raspy voice ever. You don't want to do anything for the rest of the night with your voice, at least. You're
Definitely
dead.
Yeah. We have another question. Are you sad about the character's ending? Pierce's.
Am I sad? Sad. Am I sad about the character's ending? I would say sad in the sense that the storyline between Piers and Chris will probably be contained within those four walls of RE6. Sad in that sense, because I really like their relationship. You know what I mean? Like I love their dynamic, and I love where the potential of that relationship could go. And ultimately it is the potential of that relationship that makes that ending so tragic, right? So it works, it works from a tragic storytelling standpoint. For me, and feeling that, and not like in a self-serving, like I want to voice him, I want a job kind of way, but just truly from a storytelling aspect, it's the same sad as the tragedy of the character in, as the tragedy of the story itself, which is just that relationship will not continue, and if I got to play it beyond, if I got to play it again, then wonderful, great, get to see where that goes. And it would be directly tied to asking me why, how and why do I feel sad about that character? And it's because of that. It's the potential. It's the potential.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
Yeah, and where that could go and stuff like that. But like I said, it ultimately, my sadness as to the potential of that relationship not continue is exactly why that ending is as poignant as it is. So, it works both in how it played out and works as to why I feel sad that it can't continue,
Yeah, definitely. And there is a request from Mr. Dragons. Would you mind greeting my friends as Piers?
I never thought I'd find Nitz and JP in a shithole like this. What happened to you, huh? What happened to Nitz and JP? If only Finn could see you guys this way.
That was great. You were also in Spider-Man 3, a video game. What do you remember from that?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I was playing Harry Osborn, who at the time was James Franco's character. James Franco's playing Harry Osborn. I think it's Harry Osborn. It's been a while.
I don't know.
Yeah,
because
that
you're credited as additional voices. So
yeah, I was brought on to that game to voice like all of James Franco's character, because James Franco is playing Harry Osborn in the movie, and at the time it wasn't known if Franco was going to read all of the Harry Osborn stuff for the video game. I think they had gotten Tobey Maguire at the time to voice all the video game stuff, and they didn't know. And so I voiced everything. I voiced all of Harry Osborn stuff. I think some of it is still in there because they hired me because I could sound like James Franco at the time, right?
mhm.
And so I think there's some of me still as Harry Osborn, but I'm mostly just credited now with, because I think James Franco ended up recording a lot of his stuff, and that's why I'm pretty sure if you enter that video game, Spider-Man 3 video game, I'm pretty sure James Franco's credited with Harry Osborn, and then whatever additional characters I had recorded at the same time, because a lot of times the main voice actors will also record a lot of supplemental characters, smaller characters throughout
Yeah.
the video game. It's just easier for production that way.
Mm.
And so I know all of my supplemental characters stuck and some of the Harry Osborn stuff, but yeah, that was the extent of my involvement with Spider-Man 3. But it was a lot of fun though. A lot of fun. Few recording days of all the Harry Osborn stuff. And God, what was it? It was a long time ago. A lot of Tobey Maguire in my ear for the back and forth stuff. I didn't meet Tobey, but a lot of times when you're doing the back and forth, like what I did with Roger Craig
Yeah.
Smith in Resident Evil 6, they're not there most of the time when you're doing the individual recording stuff. But you have them in your headphones a lot, and you're going back and forth with them as though they are there. And so I had a lot of Tobey Maguire in my ear at the time.
Man, that must feel great. You know, you technically worked with Tobey Maguire. You've been in a title with them. I mean, that's
I've
great.
never met the guy. I've never met the guy, but we did a lot of acting together.
Yeah, and that's great. Reign of Blaze has a line request. Could you say, what happened to the legendary Chris Redfield? At least Jill is not here to see you this way.
I could definitely do it. Here, wait, hold on. Let me get back to here. Oh, I lost you. Wait. I can still hear you, but I lost my video. There we go. Okay, I'm back. So what happened to you? Starting with that, what happened to the legendary?
Yeah, what happened to the legendary Chris Redfield? At least Jill is not here to see you this way.
People behind me are gonna start to freak out. I'm in a hotel in New York. I'm down in the lobby. There's like people over here in the thing. And they're like, what's the hell is going on over there? And sorry, what was the second part? So what happened to the legendary Chris Redfield? I'm gonna do that part.
At least Jill is not here to see you this way.
At least Jill is not here.
Yeah, Jill Valentine. Yeah.
I gotta know why this person wants to. Why do you want to do a mashup of storylines?
Oh, that wasn't the original line?
No, it's if Finn could see this way. Jill, it's not Jill. It's,
well, you know, they're good teammates with Jill, so I suppose that's why.
Jill, yeah, as a teammate, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So what happened to the legendary Chris Redfield? Huh? What happened to you? If only Jill, Finn, Jill. If only Finn, Jill could see you this way.
Man, you're great.
Finn, Jill. I can sense there's a whole fan fiction storyline just waiting to happen with Finn, Jill, Finn.
Yeah, get ready to be bombed with messages the other day, you know. All right, and one more thing. Do you think Piers would have anything to say about the VŌC podcast?
Yes, it's the VŌC podcast. Say, Captain, the VŌC podcast. Tune in now, or else. Something like that.
All right, man. It's been a lot of fun. Thank you so much for coming on, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. Super appreciate it. I'm so glad we can finally make this happen. And when it comes to the new project, because you've been so great. Like I know we went back and forth to make things happen, and
Yeah.
everybody that had questions and is tuning in and watching this, thank you so much. Like seriously, just personally and awesome. And anybody that's interested in kind of this flight of fancy NFT experiment that I'm going to do, um, either send either send to you guys or we'll be in touch if the fans want to send in what would be best, maybe a way to contact them, like an email address or hey, if anybody has if anybody's already way ahead of me and has a wallet address, I think we could do some fun free airdrops of the NFTs to some people, maybe a limited edition or something like that. But I'll coordinate with you and maybe we can make some fun free airdrop thing
That'd
happen
be great.
for some of your viewers, huh?
Sure, man, that'd be great.
Yeah. I'll make it happen. I'll make it happen because, like I said, it's a super fun space, and I want to show
Yeah,
people some cool storyline stuff. Like I said, we're transcending JPEGs here, but
yeah,
yeah, we'll
yeah.
see what
It
we can
would
do.
be great if more people would hear about this NFT of yours.
Yeah. You can do video stuff and interactive stuff. It's gonna be all like my like I said, it started as a curiosity and has bloomed into more of a art project gone totally insane. So